Dear Madam Vice President, Excellencies, we are gathering here at the Human Rights Council, whose mandate is very clear. I therefore quote the GA Resolution 60/251. The Council shall be responsible for promoting universal respect for the promotion and protection of all human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction of any kind and in a fair and equal manner. However, our time is marked with an increasing number of deliberate, serious human rights violations, as well as blatant disrespect for international law. With that said, today marks the 3rd anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The continued aggression against the people and territory of Ukraine and related suffering is entering in its 11th year. We fully condemn this unprovoked attack and blatant breach of the UN Charter. Thousands of civilians have lost their lives, millions have lost their livelihoods, and the aggressor continues to indiscriminately attack civilians, target hospitals, schools, energy infrastructure, and other civilian objects, in complete disregard for international humanitarian law. Ukrainian civilians and prisoners of war are systematically tortured in Russian prisons. This war must end. It must be stopped by the Russian leadership who deliberately initiated it and who is responsible for the crime of aggression. And it must end in full respect for Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Lasting and sustainable peace can only be achieved under conditions that are acceptable for Ukraine and in line with the UN Charter and its principles, underlining a comprehensive, just and lasting peace in Ukraine as elaborated by the General Assembly. In addition, Russia must compensate Ukraine for the damage caused by its aggression. Madam Vice President, the world is facing multiple crises, all of which also pose a challenge and risk for human rights. Respect for human rights is not a luxury that comes at the end of a long way of development. Respect and compliance with human rights is an indispensable foundation for any progress or sustainable development. It is not only a goal to achieve, but also a means to achieve the goals. This is true in all contexts, but particularly in those that are in critical transformation. After years of suffering and sacrifice, the people of Syria deserve transitional justice and the perspective of a better future. The assistance and support by the international community, including by exploring the lifting of sanctions, is a key component of this transition. In particular, the roles of the international, impartial and independent mechanism and other mandates created by the General Assembly and the Human Rights Council, as well as the Office of the High Commissioner, will be crucial. In this respect, we would also like to emphasize the important role the International Criminal Court could play. We are deeply concerned about the human rights situation in the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We supported the call for a special session of the Council earlier this month and urge all parties to cease hostilities and work towards a lasting and sustainable solution. All acts of human rights violations and breaches of international humanitarian law must be thoroughly investigated and perpetrators brought to justice. Madam Vice President, it is of utmost importance that this Council sheds light on these situations and give victims and survivors a voice that they often lack in their own countries. We have to engage in addressing the serious human rights situations in a number of countries, including in Myanmar, Iran, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. there will be no peace without justice, and Liechtenstein will therefore continue to advocate for accountability. Madam Vice President, in the view of challenges that we are facing collectively, such as the increase in armed conflicts, deteriorating human rights situations, disinformation and climate change, the United Nations must provide for a robust framework that enables discussing and finding common approaches for these challenges. The ongoing liquidity crisis of the UN and the underfunding of the human rights pillar unfortunately have a negative impact on the organization's ability to provide for that framework. UN member states must meet their financial obligations fully and on time. Because human rights are not something abstract. They bring concrete benefits to the people which are representing here. Every contribution in human rights leads to a return on invest. And we fully agree with what the High Commissioner said this morning. Human rights are a winning proposition for humanity. Let's remember that in order to fulfill the mandate of the Council, and therefore action is needed by all of us. Thank you very much.